Ain't she sweet? Walking down the street, ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Walk it up once or twice, ask you very confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think it's kinda neat? Ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Good evening, folks. Good to see you, and welcome to this Cab Managers Inner Circle live at 8. And lovely to see you this evening. So, how are you all doing? Once again, it's always a delight to see you here. Been going now, for those of you who mind, about 3.5 years, I think it is, which is absolutely staggering. But we're still here, and here supporting care managers. For those of you who might be very new to the care managers Inner Circle, we're a non-commercial, no promoting whatsoever. So and so, if you're part of this group, you won't be spammed. You won't be bombarded by recruiters or trainers or consultants. It's about us supporting each other as all care managers or executives in social care. But good to see you tonight. Just quite simply, and you might be aware. I mean, this time last year, I mean, I cannot believe what has happened over the last year. But this time last year, I was advertising. I was broadcasting every night, and there was very much a need for that. We were all supporting each other, and they were such anxious times. I think back and I remember the knot in my own stomach, just thinking what is going on. And then, of course, getting that phone call on a Friday night from Emma, our night nurse, just saying, I think we might have COVID in the building. And sure enough, we did. And it remained in 2 rooms. One survived, and sadly, one chap didn't. But I remember the anxiety, and they were not great days. I remember, just to give you an idea, I remember having so few nurses because of just off and everything else, that in the end, I had no nurse cover for a nursing home, and CQC were informed. We safeguarded it, and I remember doing several shifts as the and I'm not a clinician, but as the registered manager, I covered shifts. I did all the medication, I did the insulin injections, and the peg feeds and everything else. And that's how serious it was at the time. And I forget these things. You forget what you did at that time. But tonight, folks, great to see you. If you're watching on Catch Up, hashtag Catch Up, it's always nice to know who might be catching up on the commute in the morning, and just let us know what you're doing. And we're here to support each other. We've got incredible, all of us are own non-exec directors for each other. So use that and really sort of lean on each other. I get many messages during the week of people who are struggling, just want a bit of advice, and if I can help you, then great. Let me just send me a message, and if I've got something I can share with you or whatever, then sharing is caring, as they say. Tonight, quite simply, all it was just a bit of a catch up. So I'm now broadcasting. God, I've gone those days from 7 nights a week down to 1, maybe 2 nights a week. Which is absolutely fine. And I feel very comfortable with that. When I was doing it every single night, and then even 4 nights, it sort of overtook my life. And even Joe and Paul wife were saying, what are you doing tonight? What are you talking about tonight? And most nights ago, I'm not really too sure. But it's nice just to catch up once a week, and sometimes we'll get people on. There's some great talk shows now, and again, it's not about ego or anything like that. I don't feel I need to be on here every night, not at all. But some fabulous. Mark Tops has got I think it's the Care Chat or the Care Chat show, which is fab. I think that's on a Tuesday night. There's then also some. I think it's. God, I was going to say. It's a Clubhouse, which is on iPad, the iPhone, and also Samsung. I think it is as well. So I'm not. I think it is. Maybe one not. I need to know what I'm talking about. But I think Clubhouse, isn't it? Which again, I haven't been able to actually get on there. So today is just a few random bits and pieces. We've seen a week where the CQC has launched its own strategy. I've got to say, pretty underwhelmed, actually. I just felt that maybe they just needed to think of 4 areas that they've looked at in the past, give them a new fancy name and launch them as their new strategy. So after all the consultation, after a year of learning, after a year of quite exceptional things, we end up with the new strategy launched, which talks about people and communities. I think we've had that in the past. Smarter regulation, we've most definitely had that in the past. It talks about a risk-based approach to regulation, possibly more a dynamic approach to the gradings being given. Safety through learning, I think that's a particularly poor. Yes, we've got to be safe, and we've got to do that through learning and learning past mistakes. But I think for that to be a new theme, I thought just smacked of lack of imagination and accelerated improvement through innovative ideas and research. I thought there's absolutely nothing new there whatsoever. So all this consultation I thought was particularly underwhelming. And it's all about accessing local systems and networks of care and tackling inequalities in healthcare. I think I could have written that myself. And that was probably about 24 months ago. So nothing great, groundbreaking. Indeed, during the week as well, just to give you an idea, they also launched the new CQC, launched their cultural appropriate care, which is about recognizing different cultures and making sure that we have adequate provision for them. They've launched their new strategy for this, or their new approach, which is about recognizing how people from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds have been isolated over the pandemic, how their experience, what is their experience of cultural, important events, etc. And this feeds into Regulation 9, sort of personal-centered, Regulation 10, which is dignity and respect, and also 11, which is need for consent. Well, what we've just described there in terms of cultural appropriate care, I thought was personal-centered care. You would never launch whatsoever. You would never. So this idea that you've got to have more of a culturally sensitive care home or care provision, I thought was actually a little bit disappointing, considering that is personal. I just described as just a new name for personal-centered care. And then just giving it a buzzword bingo, give it a fancy name and call it cultural appropriate care. Well, whoever in CQC has decided that was a good way, a good use of time, probably on home working. Well done for that. But there's nothing there new whatsoever. And if a home isn't recognizing different cultures and recognizing their cultural events or their faith events, then they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. So that was another disappointment again. And just on the whole line of disappointments, there's a CQC recently criticised quite heavily, actually, by the Relative and Residents Association for sidelining and not being there present during COVID. And their lack of proactive stance and activities over the COVID period. And I tend to agree with that. When COVID hit and we were all literally launched into it, then I remember thinking to myself, this is where CQC needs to step up to the mark. This is where CQC now needs to be here. They need to be with us side by side. And, we were the good homes. I'm thinking about all those homes that prior to that had already put their cultural barriers up. That and this was now just fantastic. There's an opportunity for them not to let anyone in. And someone just said that, left us high and dry. They did. They left us absolutely high and dry. There was no advice. There was no guidance. Even Department of Health and Social Care, it took them many, many weeks to start to gear themselves up. And whilst there were moments where they were support, the supportive framework, which was then launched, that really was just a phone round, just to, I think, probably tick a box, just to say, have they got the assurances? So I've got to say that's, someone said, yeah, and we still have to pay the annual fee. You're absolutely right. So let me just show you here. So there's Victoria. Good evening, Victoria. Lovely to see you. That's us there to defend ourselves with no support. I tend to agree, rather disappointingly. And funnily enough, I was on a panel that Kate Tironi was also on there, and it was about this time last year where they launched. It might have been a little bit later on, actually, but they launched their review of COVID. It's their new, I think it was the strategy, or their state of nation, state of care. That was it, state of care, in October. And I remember being part of a panel, and I was quite critical then, saying that the state of care was basically just a descriptive of the pandemic and what had happened over the last year, and it was really lacked imagination. It was basically just a story of what had happened. But what was absent was there was no examples of the proactiveness. There was no examples of how they went in, were kicking doors down of all the people in these care homes that were already closed cultures. And I felt that was really, that was the moment where they needed to step up. They need to step up and put their battle armor on, the battle knickers and everything else, and really get out there. And regrettably, that didn't happen. And I felt that was a moment with the regulator. I think it left us all high and dry, sadly. So other bits and pieces. So it's not all about CQC tonight. You'll be pleased to know we've had Hancock wriggling out of the, and certainly under the gaze and spotlight about the protective ring. We knew at the time there wasn't a protective ring, and I think it was absolutely abhorrent to even suggest there was. I remember the pressure that I was under personally, and as a home, to accept numerous people from the hospital. And you could have just named your price. It was that ridiculous. They were desperate to clear the beds. And I remember being on a webinar in the back end of, this is 23rd, 24th, 25th of March, where we were told categorically that don't be bothering phoning 999. Your residents will be left with you. The ceiling of care is what you can deliver. And they even went to specify types of injury. If there was a head injury, there's probably not much we can do about it. Anything else, including IV antibiotics, were probably not going to be given. And therefore, effectively, we've got to keep A&E clear, and we've got to keep our wards clear. And we were told that and I remember putting that in some minutes and launching those minutes to the North and South Sefton Care Home Group. And I got told to remove those minutes because they weren't true reflection. And I said, you must be joking. I said, that was exactly what I was told by a consultant who was on the webinar and went into exact detail of what was going to happen when the pandemic hit. And people forget that, there's some things you do not forget. And that is one thing that I will never forget. We've also had the submission of the PIR this week. Someone was saying, it was submitted the PIR advice from previous. That was great. That's so last week, you might recall, I did a live on the submission of the PIR, and hopefully that I really, don't get me wrong, these little live debates really help me personally, because you formulate your own ideas and do your own research as well. And of course, sharing is caring. So if there's an opportunity for me to share that and save other people having to do a little bit of research, then that's great, because I've done the research, so you might as well share it. But during the week, a lot of people, I think the deadline is tomorrow for a lot of people, myself included. I got mine in over the weekend. I thought, right, and that was it. So that was great. So well done to everyone who has got your PIR in, and hopefully, and for those of you who might be looking and your PIR is due in, there's a load of stuff on the file section. So have a little look over that. CCTV, they're doing a review on that. Code of practice. There's a survey online. and the CQC if you want to contribute to that. It's Pride Month as well, so we've got some events coming up in the next few weeks for Pride, and that's going to be great. That's really important, that stuff, really, really important. And the last few years we've had a lot of gay, more and more gay elderly, actually, and it's great. Yeah, it is absolutely fabulous, and we've got to celebrate that sort of stuff. New IPC methodology for community settings has also been launched as well. And I think there's more. If you're in a community setting, particularly supported living, there's a new infection control protocol and methodology, and there's a toolkit as well, which might be of interest to you. We've also seen this week where we've had 0 COVID deaths, which is fantastic. Really, that's worth celebrating. So in the last. I think it's probably about it. So lots going on. Just seeing if there's got anything else there. No, lots going on. I think the issues we're all still dealing with is workforce, visiting, our ongoing issues of occupancy, and vaccinating and making sure that the ongoing vaccination program for our residents and also our staff. I think staff are now coming around to it. I'm certainly not a big advocate of this idea of compulsory vaccinations for staff. Certainly, I think you might be able to mandate it. I think you're on safer ground for new staff if it's incorporated into terms and conditions of there will always be exceptions and there will always be clauses which you will not be able to enforce, because certainly it's got to be in compliance with the Equalities Act 2010. So just be very careful about that. But certainly you can't mandate existing staff. That's my view. And I think you're onto a real sticky wicket with that. I think you've got to talk around, and it's a long game. It's a long information campaign with them of reassurance. And some people have some very genuine fears, actually, and not just about pregnant ladies. So there you go, folks. Good to see you. See if there's any other comments. But always a pleasure. Facebook years just saying. You also good evening. I'm doing very well, thank you. Good to see everyone. And there's actually there. You took the words out of my mouth. I was talking about CQC. I think abandoning us all. They did right at the very start. I'm not too sure. There you go. It's me to on news. It's hi Susie. Yeah, no. It's if you're on a group, then it doesn't pull in your profile. I think you've got to put a thing in there about permissions or something like that. But there you go, folks. Always great to see you. And we'll see you very soon. Folks, look after yourselves. Take care. And we will see you on the other side. Bye for now.